back for Harfield. 1-0 Burnley. Scott Harfield. He's been threatening that recently. And all the Burnley players run to the Darwin end. Oh, what a goal! What a goal from Robbie Blake! Burnley's first goal in the Premier League is something very, very special.
Wade Elliott has that change of pace and he's got away from Montgomery. It's the path of McCann and the follow-up finds the net. What a strike from Wade Elliott! A bolt from the Claret and Blue.
Oh goodness me! What a goal from Patterson! If that is to be the one that takes them to Wembley, you cannot argue with that. Pure quality.
Here goes Mike Conroy. Still time for a winner, maybe. John Francis! They came to York in their thousands. They're going home as champions.
I mean, if there's any justice in the world, Burnley would surely score from this corner. Swung right in there. Ball in there. Yeah! Michael Kelly! Oh, that's justice! That is justice at the Amex Stadium. Burnley are level and deserve to be.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Turfcast podcast pre-game show with me, Joe Redmond, ahead of what is probably our toughest test of the season so far. Some may argue Watford, but they've been pretty much hit and miss this season. They were hit against us. Although in the end, I did think that they were quite fortunate because I thought, obviously we hit the bar late on and stuff. But yeah, I digress. But yeah, we've got a Swansea side coming up this weekend on Saturday, 3:00 at the Turf. A Swansea side that have won their last 4 games. And despite a slow start, I mean, they got beat against Blackburn Rovers at home, the worst team in the country. So they had a very slow start. They've really, really picked up. And they're a side now that I look at and think, maybe, because a few people were talking about Swansea at the start of the season for promotion, and I was thinking maybe they've got an outside chance. But Watford have had a poor start. Middlesbrough have had a poor start. So teams like your Swanseas, who had an outside chance, are now putting runs together and getting into the mixture. The camera's done the first throws of the show. There we go. Long-time viewers will be used to that. But yeah, Swansea won the last 4. Some impressive wins in there as well. But we have got a Swansea fan waiting in the wing, so we will bring him in just a couple of minutes. So it isn't just going to be me talking on my own without a Swansea fan, so you don't need to worry. A Swansea fan is waiting. But the usual things, just want to quickly chat about the win at Coventry. I know I said it on the 60-second review. I didn't get a chance to do a full-time show. Apologies with Sam being on holiday and a couple of other people couldn't come on. Neil was unfortunately ill. So I just sacked it off. But I don't know. Like, I've had time to reflect on it now, and we still weren't great. We only, in my opinion, and this I feel like is going to be an unpopular opinion that I'll get a bit of stick for. We didn't keep a clean sheet in the traditional sense of defending well. They were just too poor to score. Obviously, they hit the underside of the bar as well, so they came a cat's whisker away from scoring. I feel like we kept that clean sheet because they were rubbish rather than us defending well. There was instances where we defended a little bit better. I thought Connor Roberts came on when he did well. But would I start him this week? I'm not really sure. So there are scenarios where we did okay, but, the bottom of the league, we should be seeing them off, let's be honest. And it was another case of getting the goal and then just not putting the game to bed. We got the win, obviously. But we didn't put the game to bed again, and that is the main issue for us this season. Obviously, against Cardiff, we threw it away in the 85th minute. Against West Brom, the 98th minute, and then again against Stoke, we threw it away. And I thought it was coming against Coventry. I was adamant. We kept them out, but like I said, I don't necessarily feel like it was because we defended well. I thought it was more a case of they just weren't good enough to punish us, if I'm being honest with you. But the main thing is we did keep a clean sheet, and that will help the confidence. We just need to learn to put teams to bed. But it's going to be a completely different sort of kettle of fish this weekend because we are playing a side in form and a side that has started well. As I mentioned, I will bring Darren in, the Swansea fan, in just a couple of minutes. But just a reminder to join the Turfcast podcast. what's it called now? Fantasy football. I had a brain fart then. The Fantasy Football League. We're doing it this year on Fanslide. The link is in the description of this video if you're watching on YouTube. So just click the link. You will be entered into a prize draw if you join through our link. And we will also be doing prizes for winning our league. If you want to join our league, the code is, again, I've not got it in front of me, but I think it is FNCKZ. So type that in, join our table, the Turfcast TV table, FNCKZ. It should come up saying Turfcast TV table. If it just doesn't work or it's a random table, you're not on our table. So then I've got the code wrong. But just drop me a message. I'll send you the real one. I'm 95% certain it's FNCKZ. But just a reminder, Fanslide is free to play, but you can pay if you want to. If you are using Fanslide to pay, please remember to gamble responsibly. We do recommend you use the free version though here with the Turfcast code. But right, let's bring Swansea fan Darren in. Like I said, he's called Darren and he's from the Real Jack Army. How you doing, mate? You okay?
Hello, yeah, good, thank you.
Yeah, so talk to me about your season so far then, mate, because it's like a season of two halves, isn't it? You started very, very slow. Some bad defeats in there. I'm just looking at your results here. Drawing to Rotherham, away. It's not horrendous away from home, but you would expect a team of your quality to be beating Rotherham. Losing 3-0 at home to Blackburn. Picked up a win against Blackpool, but then you failed to beat Millwall at home, lost at home to Luton. But then, since then, some very impressive results. You won away at West Brom, which is what Burnley couldn't do. You beat Hull at home, which is what Burnley couldn't do. You beat Watford away, which again is the only game that Burnley have lost this season is Watford away. So some impressive results. So do you feel like you've turned a corner?
We have, yeah. I think we started off badly, like you mentioned, and then the last 4 games just been a totally different side to what we started like.
What's changed then?
I don't know. I think under Martin, he was under pressure and the fans started turning on him. And then I think we just his philosophy now has just kicked in, and I think the players are happy to play for him, and the possession and the likes of Piero and Obafembi, they just kicked on the season now, and I think we turned a corner.
So what is the philosophy and style then? Like, do you think he's had? Well, before I ask that question, actually, do you think it's now that he's got his message across more because he's been there with this crop of players longer? Do you think that's why the philosophy is coming across more?
I think so. Yeah, I think they're just starting to click now, and I think this could be, hopefully a run of games which will see us climb the table more and more.
Yeah, well, you're down in 6 now. I think it is. Again, just let me get the table up. Yeah, down in 6, only 1 point behind us. Which to say, like I said, 4 games ago, I think you were, bottom half of the table. That's astonishing to be fair. But you mentioned there his philosophy and his style. What sort of philosophy and style does Martin implement on his side?
Passing from the back, build up nicely, and then when there's chances in behind from a team, I think we just look to press that team and then close them down and then keep the ball, because we've always been a team that likes to keep possession against teams, going known for that. And I think the likes of Obafembi and Piero and Patterson, I think when they get the ball, we create chances and we just find the back of the net.
Yeah, it sounds like I don't know if you've watched much of Burnley this season, but it sounds like a similar style to Burnley. Try and build from the back and then try and break the lines, maybe press teams as well. Is that a fair point?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Yep, fair enough. You've mentioned a few players there, Obafemi, Pereiro and Patterson as well. Are these the sort of players that we need to be looking out for on Saturday? Would you say these are your most threatening players? Obviously, we know quite a bit about Obafemi because obviously we were interested. I think it was him we was interested in the summer. I thought that would be a very good signing, but obviously it wasn't to be. But are these the sort of players we need to be looking out for on Saturday?
And I think you should also keep an eye out for Ben Cabango and Darlin, because it's not only our forwards that can cause you problems. I think our defenders can cause you problems, especially from set pieces.
Yep, fair enough. So again, just looking at the fact that your season's in sort of like 2 different halves, you've mentioned now why you think you're better than what you were. What was going wrong earlier in the season was you conceding too many goals. I know it's easy to poke fun at Blackburn because obviously it's a Burnley podcast, but losing 3-0 at home to Blackburn is pretty. They're hit and miss, admittedly. They've had some good results this season. I'll say that begrudgingly, but that's pretty poor. Failing to beat Middlesbrough at home as well. Again, that's pretty poor. And things like that. So, what do you think was going wrong earlier in the season?
I think we wasn't sure on players if they were going to stay. The likes of Obafemi, like you mentioned, going to Burnley, and then in the last couple of weeks, we're a side that, our owners like to keep us quiet. And then the last couple of days of transfer window, the likes of Obafemi, was he staying? Was he going? That probably dented a team morale going forward. And then he obviously, not to be saying he threw his toys at the pram and he wouldn't play for a couple of games because he obviously wanted to leave. And then I think looking back, then I think the players that we got now have just said, right, that this is it now. This is what we got. Just play and see what we can do for the rest of the season.
Yeah, fair enough. Again, I'm just looking at your results. Like you say, you've won 4 in a row now. Excuse me. You've won 4 in a row now. Do you think that you have fully turned the corner and because you've got some difficult games coming up, let's be honest. Burnley away, nobody's going to want to always play Burnley away. I'm not saying it's impossible to get a win there because it isn't. I am quite worried about this weekend, if I'm honest, but we'll get into predictions later. Then you're playing Reading at home, who were all tipped to go down. Admittedly, they've started very well. I do still think they'll fade, but they just seem to keep defying that logic. And then, you've got a big Derby game, which Cardiff are pretty poor this season. If I'm honest, we couldn't beat them, but form seems to go out the window in Derby games. So, do you think this run you can continue? Because, like I said, it's 4 in a row. You win them 3, that's 7. Quick maths. Do you think you can? Do you think you can continue this run and keep winning all these games, or are you a little bit worried that it's going to slow down?
I generally think that we turn a corner, and I think we're going to keep this winning streak going.
Fair enough. Any injuries or anything we need to know about? Suspensions that maybe some players may be missing on your side?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
No, unfortunately for us, Twine does seem to still be injured. I'm not sure what the latest is because we have our press conferences on Thursdays. Obviously, it's Thursday now. We're recording this before the press conference. It's probably a similar thing for you as well, to be fair. It's normally Thursdays, isn't it, for most clubs if you're playing on Saturday? So we may know more about Swansea side of things later today. But for the Burnley side of things, Scott Twine is still injured. I'm a little bit worried about Muric, although some fans think, keep Bailey Peacock-Farrell in there, which, fair enough. Everyone's entitled to their opinion, but everyone's like, we kept a clean sheet with Bailey in the net. He didn't have a save to make. They had 0 shots on target at Coventry. I want to talk about your ambitions then for the season. Obviously, a lot of talk at the beginning of the season was Swansea could be dark horses because not many people were talking about them in the sense of they could go up or they could win the league. A lot of people were talking about your Norwiches, your Watfords, your Burnleys, your Middlesbroughs. Sheffield United's been mentioned a lot, although their form has dropped off a cliff, although they have about 15 injuries, to be fair to them. But what are your ambitions for the season then? Do you think that it is realistic that you can finish, say, in the top 2? Obviously, you sound very confident, to be fair. You're expecting to keep this run going, and that would suggest to me that you're quite confident and maybe pushing on and potentially finishing in the top 2. Do you think you can do it?
I'd say I'd be happy with the playoff place right now.
Yeah, fair enough. What about your predictions? Where do you think you'll finish?
6th.
Yeah. Well, you're 6 now, so end the season now. So end the season now. I'd be happy
to stay in the playoffs. We've turned a corner. I say, why not continue it? Pick up the odd win and draw, and the likes of West Brom and Watford keep dropping points, and Middlesbrough dropping points, and you dropping points, and I think we'll be all right for a playoff.
Yeah, fair enough. I think Middlesbrough have got a lot of ground to make up now, admittedly. But it's the same with West Brom, Middlesbrough. New managers come in. They've done it relatively early. We all know of the Championship it's so close. I'll just quickly get the league table up on my screen. So Sheffield United are top on 24. Then you've got Norwich second on 24. Then QPR on 24. So 3 teams joint top. QPR, by the way, they've won 3 in a row. They're doing very, very well. Then you've got us on 22 points in 4th. Reading on 22 points in 5th. Yourselves, Swansea in 21. The Horse Fiddlers in 7th on 21. Then even Preston are 8th, for God's sake. Even Wigan are 9th. That's what I mean. The Championship is so tight, isn't it? It's like this every year. But then down at the bottom, you've got your West Brom on 11. You've got your Middlesbrough on 13. Stoke, they could potentially put a run together. I'm not sure they're good enough. Sunderland seem to be dropping. They haven't won for 4 games now. But are you worried that some of these teams down the bottom, like your West Broms and your Middlesbroughs, could put a run together and then start making a bit of a charge on the table?
Yeah.
And then if teams like yourselves and us, obviously, start dropping points, then they're only going to replace the teams that are dropping points, aren't they? So are you worried about your Middlesbroughs and your West Broms picking up some
Yeah,
points?
definitely West Brom, because they got the players there from last year. And they they still got them. So be a bit worried if if they win on like a 5-winning game streak, then get worried then. But by the time being, they're a mess, and they so.
Yeah, I look at Middlesbrough and I do think they are a mess. I look at West Brom and, like you say, I think they've got a good squad there. If they get the right manager in through the door, like, for all I know, they could have appointed somebody. I've not checked any news today. Last time I checked, it was yesterday. They still hadn't appointed anybody. But if they get the right manager through the door, Sean Dyche is rumoured to be going. If that is the case, then fair play. I would be both happy for Sean and worried for Burnley. But it's one of the things. If they get Sean Dyche, then they'll make an absolute assault on the league and probably win it comfortably. But we will see. So yeah, we've done that. We've done your predictions for the season. I also like to get people's thoughts before we get into the nitty-gritty of the game on Saturday. Your thoughts on what Burnley have done this summer, because obviously we've just mentioned Sean Dyche. He was there for 9 years. It was such a big thing to sack him. Ultimately, some people will disagree. Ultimately proved to not the right decision, but we ended up nearly staying up. I don't think we would have nearly stayed up if we didn't sack him. But that's a different debate. We won't get into that. But what are your thoughts on what Burnley have tried to do? Because they brought in Vincent Kompany, who's a completely, young manager still trying to cut his teeth, got a completely different new philosophy. It sounds similar to Russell Martin, if I'm being honest with you.
Yeah.
Possession-based football, patient, play out from the back, try and break the lines and then attack that way. And then we brought in 16 players as well. Quite a lot of players needed to, because we lost 12, I think it was. But what are your thoughts on what Burnley are trying to do? Because it's just a completely change of style, completely change of ethos. And yeah, like, it's a new league, so we might as well do it now. But what are your thoughts on what we're trying to do?
I was shocked when they sacked Sean Dyche, because he's Burnley through and through, and then when he sacked him, I was like, oh right, they're definitely going down now. And I was like, right, who are they going to get in? And then like you said, Vincent Kompany came in, a manager who hasn't had much experience, if you could say that, because of the Belgium setup. Yeah. And then, like you said, he lost 12 players, brought in 16. Almost nearly as bad as Nottingham Forest over the summer, buying loads of players. And I think you're obviously going to be there or thereabouts, because you're a side that likes to be in around the playoffs or top 2. But it just all depends, doesn't it? Like on games coming up now, and if you can stick it with the top 2, like.
Yeah, well, thankfully for us, Sheffield United have got a lot of injuries. I thought they were going to run away with it. And if they have a full squad, I still think they will easily run away with it. But right now, excuse me, they've got a lot of injuries and they tend to be dropping points, which is only good for the likes of Burnley. And, of course, Swansea. Yeah. A surprise package up there as well, though. QPR, they seem to be doing well. That's interesting. But we'll see how the promotion picture gets on. You said you think Burnley will be there or thereabouts. Where do you think Burnley will finish at the end of the season?
3rd.
I'm going to say I'll take that. I probably would take that. I don't know. I obviously want to go up, but it's weird. Like I'm enjoying being back in the Championship. It's that different grounds I've not been to for a long time. Yeah. We've actually played nice football now. Not that I didn't like the Sean Dyche football, because when it was going well, it was. I don't care how we play as long as we're winning games. But we weren't winning games in the last 18 months of Dyche's tenure, so that did become a bit tedious. I'm enjoying going to the likes of Preston again. All right, the result wasn't what we wanted. Should have beat them comfortably. Wigan, enjoyed that. So I'm enjoying being back in the Championship already, but it's one of the things you've got to do as well as you can, haven't you? So fingers crossed we can just push that further over the line. Let's get into the game then. Before we ask for your predictions, I do like to find out what sort of game you're expecting, just from listening to you there and talk about Russell Martin's his philosophy. Sounds again similar to ours. So I'm expecting 2 teams that are probably going to go for it, if I'm being honest with you. I think you'll be patient in your build-up, but I think you will try and attack us, then we'll try and sort of like counter that attack. we'll try and be patient as well. I'm expecting two decent teams who are good on the ball, who want the ball, and aren't just going to sit back. I think that's been our problem recently. Teams have come to the turf, they've just sat back, and we've struggled to break them down. So I'm expecting a few goals in this one, but what sort of game are you expecting?
Like I said, attacking. Both teams like to attack and try to score. But if I'm gonna say, I know it's not time for like prediction, but I'd be happy for to take a point off you, to be honest.
Well, to be honest, I'm pretty worried about this weekend. I'm not going to lie to you. You've hit form at the wrong time for us. As soon as you're about to play us, you've won 4 in a row. All good things have got to come to an end, though. I think you'll do well to get it to 5 and 6 and 7, like you think you can do. I'm not saying you can't, because the teams you are playing against, you can beat. I wouldn't walk away from the turf seeing Swansea winning 2-1 and be like, oh my God, I am well shocked. I can't believe we've lost to them. It would be like, oh, fair enough, Swansea beating us. But we do seem like we are a hard side to beat. We're the only team that's lost once this season. I think Sheffield United have lost 3 times. I think Norwich have lost 3 times. And we've only lost the once. Off the top of my head, I think we've lost 1 game in 35 championship games or something daft like that. So we obviously, I say 35 championship games. Some of these are from 2016. So I was going to say we're a hard team to beat, but still this season we've lost 1 in 13. So we are still a hard team to beat. So I'm going to actually predict a draw, if I'm being honest with you. My prediction, but I'm expecting goals. I'm expecting a decent game. I don't think you'll sit back. If you do sit back, I'm gonna think maybe 0-0 or 1-1. But I think you'll come at us. I think you'll try and attack us. So I'm going to go for 2-2. What sort of score are you thinking?
I'm gonna be bold. I'm gonna say I think we beat West Brom, we beat Watford, and yes, they're struggling, but I generally think we're gonna nick it 2-1 against you lot.
Fair enough. Like I said, if I left the turf thinking that way, left the turf with that result behind me, I wouldn't be overly. I'll be disappointed, obviously, and I'll be ranting on my 60-second review. But I wouldn't be overly shocked. But yeah, thank you very much, Darren. It's been a pleasure having you on. Just want to give everyone a shout of where they can find you if they want to see some Swansea content.
On the Real Jack Army on Twitter and YouTube.
Excellent, mate. Well, thanks for coming on the show. It's been a pleasure. Good luck for the rest of the season, as everybody always says, but not for Saturday.